Wednesday night Torah. Tonight we're going to study Torah for the sake of heaven, and the more I say that phrase, the more it makes sense, because when you study Torah for the sake of heaven, you are not taking it out of heaven. You are not taking it out of the context. Therefore, you're not committing avodah zarah, which is idolatry. So when we say we're studying Torah for the sake of heaven, we're studying Torah in heaven and leaving it there to a degree. Although aspects of it stay with us, when you study Torah the way we're studying it, and when you're studying the subject that we're studying, if you start dividing things out in creation and dividing God out in creation, you're walking a very fine line of getting in a lot of trouble with God. So whenever you study and whenever you delineate it out and put it in an order form, you always have to return it to its original form of oneness. So if we study Torah for the sake of heaven, then that leaves it in the realm of global heaven instead of studying it for our own sake. So anyway,
how do we return it? How do we do that?
We leave it there.
You go back to the tennis ball.
Yeah, you go back to the tennis ball. To the most.
In your brain?
To the most. Yeah, yes, but the knowledge is, but the Torah itself stays in oneness. Now, what I want to do, because questions are the essence of Torah, and it's not so much the question, it's the answer, like Russell says, is every class, I want to spend the first few moments of the class question and answer, and then at the end of the class, when the class is over, we will go home and you can formulate your questions, and we'll go over them at the next class. So at this time, what we'll do is, if anybody has any questions from last week's class, we will go over those and answer any questions that you may have. I had been working on, since we're going through creation from the beginning at the Ein Sof, I've been working on I was at a point where I want to make sure everything that happens in a particular order, if we're going to call it an order, is represented. And we left out the entire Kol HaTorah, the entire workings of the Torah. But as I was going back through studying it, I saw something that jogged my memory and was able to insert it that is really going to open up the rest of the Torah for us. And so when we get to that point today, I am going to point that out. Although I wrote everything on the board from the last two classes that we covered, because I'm a visual learner, and although you people on the phone can't visually see what's going on here, we're hoping to change that, and maybe Russell can burn this to a DVD and get it to you so you can see the board. I think maybe Chad and John, I did take a picture on my phone and tried to get it sent to you guys so that y'all would have some form of idea of where we're going today, and we may go over a little today with the time, but that's okay. Questions? Anybody? No?
It's too long ago.
Okay.
Well, we have to just write them down as
yeah.
That's what I have to do at work. I have to
write your questions down as we go, and then next class we'll visit them and make sure everybody is clear. Okay.
I have one question. This is Chad. I have one question.
Come on, Chad.
Hi. After you said last week that the last letter Aleph, and then you said the fundamental something, and then you said that's big. I didn't hear what the fundamental what that's big.
Okay. in correlation with the study today, every alphabet, every letter has a corresponding big aleph and a corresponding little aleph in Torah. There's a corresponding big vav and a corresponding little vav. We will cover the little. We are going to cover the little vav when we discuss Leviathan, which is the soul of Moses. Very important. We also know the big aleph, Keter. Metatron is the big aleph. And who's the little aleph? And Vayikra. That's where you find the little aleph. Moses. So what you're going to see is quite a few big littles. There's a big little for every alphabet. And let me see if I can find this. I will show you and I will give you a quick example of where we find a couple little things, if I can go to it here.
You remember saying last big last week?
No, I don't remember. I don't recall exactly.
Okay.
Um,
Also recorded, it'll be on the recording. I'll look back. Thank you.
okay.
Right,
Um,
I have that.
There's a.
Got it.
Can you believe I found that? Okay. In the book of Esther, you will find a little tav, a little shin, and a little tzayin. For 2,300 years, something like that. Well, since 4,000 years since the time of Esther, nobody knew what it stood for. The numerical value of it is 5,707. That refers to the date of 1946. What happened in 1946?
The trials at Nuremberg.
There you go.
Let's tie in with.
There you go.
Why
So,
don't you repeat what he said, because the other people on the phone can't hear it.
yes, the Nuremberg trials were 1946, where the 10 people were executed by hanging, just like the sons of Haman were in Ruth, and the story of Mordecai on the Purim festival. This was the Nazi deal. So every little letter in Torah has great significance, as we're going to see. So that's just one example of where you'll find some of these things going on. That's a very cool Torah story, and that's a good question on the little letters there. So
Do you know what the middle one was?
let's go over now the review of what we've studied the last couple weeks.
Was that, Mike, was that Olive, Tav, Zion?
No, Tav, Zion, and what? The little Tav.
Shin. Okay. On the board here, I know you guys can't see, but we're working on that.
If you kind of tell them where that, those who have a picture can make it.
Yeah, on the board here, what we're doing is going through what's called the Seder Hishtalshelut. Seder Hishtalshelut. What that is the order of spiritual creation. That's what we're trying to map out from the beginning to where we are today. And it's going to take us all summer. All right. Some of the words that we have was or pashut. Y'all remember that? This is the simple, undifferentiated light. We have Yud He Vav He. This is the name formula of God. Its gematria is 26. We have the word Yesh, which means that which is. This is the containing of all physical and spiritual energy or matter. All right. So let's we'll go through a few more here. Halal. This is the empty space, and He created a halal.
You have to put somebody who needs to go on mute.
Hey, one of you guys, I think it's Chad. You're going to have to put your side on mute. This call ended. Batsina de Carnuta. This is the hard spark. This is the secret of Guvarot. Guvarot is 5. Always 5. Now, to not fast forward, but if we look at Adam's separation, Adam Harishon's separation from Lilith, from Eve, was 130 years. That's where we get that. The Guvarot, 5 times the numerical value of God's name, is 130. Kaf, Lamed, which spells kol, which is light.
Coal is light?
Like kol hator. The kol
Yeah,
and kol. It's also a term for light. The light of the turtle dove, the light, the kol.
Okay, I never heard that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, so let's look up here on the board. We have the Ein Sof, which is the infinite light. The king, the desire arose to create in the Ein Sof. This desire was for the Ein Sof to be called by his names. This is the Yud He Vav He. This whole part right here is what we discussed last week, the Shashua, the delight. This contains or pashut, simple undifferentiated light, the teheru ela'ah, the supernal light, and the botzina, this is the hard spark. They're one and the same. These are different terms for breaking down the entity of itself. God desired to create it from the center point. Remember the center point?
Mm-hmm.
And the tzimtzum, the expansion and contraction of this center point. This is Hug. This is the Hasidim and Guvarot. In it is the Yesh, that which is all the spiritual and physical matter. It's in the halal, the empty space. What's in this empty space? The teheru, the supernal light, which is the hard spark, and the reshimu. The reshimu is the echo of light. This is the residue of light. So when God formed this halal, this empty space, and entered it with supernal light, this hard spark, when He left it, it left light there, which is reshimu, which is this echo of light, this thing that is just like Him, that is there as well. And this is called the residue, i.e. the teheru. It's a supernal light of its own. All right? So that's what's going on, and this is the Or Ein Sof, the light of the Ein Sof. Now, Ein Sof has a gematria of 207. Or has a gematria of 207. He and his name are one. They're same. All right? But we're just this hard spark is what did, you've read in books, he engraved. It's the engraving. He's engraving the letters. He's engraving physicality. So that's what this Botsina is. This entire thought that arose is Torah. Torah is Yud He Vav He. It is the name formula. It is the essence of the whole structure. Torah is feminine. Torah is feminine because it has a He on the end of it. It's feminine to him. It's masculine to us. It depends on where you're looking from. Now, the written Torah is male, and the oral Torah, which we're doing today, is female. Because what is he doing here? He is creating two surfaces, one side with two surfaces. He's creating masculine and feminine. He's creating darkness, which is the opposite of light, but he is still in it. Because darkness, as we'll find out, contains all colors. Alright? Now, this hard spark here, this Or Ein Sof, this first Simtsun, the Or Pashut, the Yesh, the Teheru, the residue, what is it? The Yud is the twin messiahs. There's going to be 4 parts. Because we have 4 parts. Yud, He, Vav, He. The Yud is the twin messiahs. Its gematria, the gematria is of Messiah ben Yosef is 358. The He is the two-tailed Leviathan. What you're going to see here is you're going to see not duality, plurality. Don't look at it as duality because it's all one thing. Look at it as plurality. Look at it as polarity.
Right.
Positives and negatives. A battery must run off of positive and negative. So the Yud is the twin messiahs, Messiah ben Joseph, Messiah ben David. The two-tailed Leviathan, which we're going to study probably next week at length. The Vav is Metatron, which we studied last week. And the He is the Nakash.
The second He.
The second He is the Nakash. Now the Nakash is what? Anybody know what the Nakash is?
The Nakash is the serpent.
The Nakash is the serpent. Its gematria is 358, just like Messiah. Now, although those are 4 things, they are inseparable. They are all one thing. Let's break it down a little bit. Who in Torah, David's father Jesse is called the great Nakash, the great serpent. In Torah, Pharaoh is called the great serpent, the great Nakash. Moses was the great Nakash. So what we're seeing in Torah is iterations of the very beginning of everything playing out in the story. Pharaoh laid his serpent down. Moses laid his serpent down. Whenever you hear the term serpent, don't let it scare you to thinking that the serpent is always evil. There's always polarity. We'll delve into the serpent in the garden. Your spine which is the secret of the Vav, of Metatron. Your spine is in the shape of a snake. It's curved. It's a serpent. It's got a triangular bone on the bottom called a sacrum. It looks like the head of a snake if you look at it from behind. So you're going to see iterations of this very creation in us, created in the image and likeness of God. So we have one surface with two sides or two faces. They have two faces. Faces, the word face in Hebrew is panim. Panim means faces. Moses was called Sar ha-Panim, the minister of the faces.
It was Moses.
So, now on to the next piece. Notice, each one of these, I have outlined of this whole thing a point. All the light, this blue line around it, indicates all the light is touching. It's all overlapping. There is no this and that. It is all a unified thing. If you see the word Torah, you can automatically say twin messiahs, two-tailed Leviathan, Metatron, and Nakash, because that's what Yud He Vav He is. And when we get into the Feast of Tabernacles, it's all about Leviathan. So we got to study that. Now, if we look at the next word, Olam HaMalbush, this is the essential names of the 10 Sphirot. This is the garment of light. This is the world of cloaking. This is how God disguises or cloaks himself in creation. Ralah Sha'arim. This is the 231 gates of the Aleph Bet. This is their forwards and backwards. They have two faces. So as we see between the name, between God's name and Adam Kadmon, the first Adam, we have the 231 gates, the Malbush, which is the echoes of light, the garment of light which he clothed himself in. The Holy One clothed himself in. This is the cloaking mystery of the residue of the light. How God hid himself from himself to reveal himself to himself. This is the primordial universe of the Aleph Bet. Now, at this juncture, the Aleph Bet has no form, it's all potential. It's all just energy and matter and potential. This is all going on in literally the mind of Hashem. It's all this thought is being emanated from Hashem. So, this emanation is called Adam Kadmon. Adam Kadmon is primordial Adam, primordial man. It's identified as Ak. When we speak it, we'll call his name Ak. This is the light emanations. And as we go on and study more, these light emanations, Ak is going to emanate light itself. This is the level of what we will go into is Arik Anpim, Atik Yomim, and Atika Kadesha. Eli Echiyah. We are developing the Sphira of Keter, is what we're doing. All of this is contained in that, yet Ak is above it. because we haven't made it yet. Now, we have the term here, the next one on the board, Ta. It's an acronym for Ta'amim, which is the sound of the letters. Nekudot, which are the vowels. Tagim, which are the crowns. Otiyot, which is the letters. And so whenever you see this Tanta, it's all of those things. The sounds, the vowels, the crowns that are on them, and the letters themselves. This is Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey. Once again. Going down to the next thing, we have what we spoke about, Agulim. A lot of times you'll see it spelled with an E, Igulim. These are the spheres. These are the first 10 spheres, emanations of the first 10 sphirot. And Yosher, these are the columns. These will eventually be the 3 columns, right, left, middle. Agulim will be responsible for the nephesh level of the soul, and the Yosher for the ruach level of the soul. These will ultimately construct the modern day spherotic structure that we will study later on. We've got 10 of these to go. All right? So, this circle I have on here is the halal, spoken of up here. So as his light penetrates the halal, all of this is the nephesh, is the first of the nephesh. Every time it penetrates, every time one of these things happens, it is a tzimtzum and a shashua. It's creating a world every time. These are the worlds above Ak. This is the world that separates Ak. If you look at it like this, every time he breathes in and breathes out, something new happens within itself. This is the Hug principle. Each time he penetrates into this space, into this center point, the light makes a circle and returns. And it does it again and again and again and again. And so what I have drawn here is 10 emanations and 10 circles.
So that's 10 circles, one within another.
Yeah, one within the other.
Concentric
circles. It's one circle that contains 10. At this point,
Is it a circle or a sphere?
yes.
It's a sphere.
Sphere, yeah, it's a sphere. At this point, the Agulim and the Yosher, they are one thing, but they can't communicate. They're not communicating yet. Once they communicate, when the Nephesh has a Ruach, it will have a personality. And so this is where we're going to get the personalities of the light of God. God is creating for himself a filter system. A filter in a way to filter his light, and a filter in a way to disperse his light. Because one is going to be judgment, one is going to be loving kindness, one is going to be balance, one is going to be empathy, one is going to be, all of the personas and personalities of this spherotic structure. Alright? Metatron's the big Vav. Moses is the little Vav. This is the soul of Moses right here. This is the creation of Moses, the Metatron. You want to know how far Moses goes back? That far. Now, here's the oversoul of Joseph and the oversoul of David at the twin messiahs. We have the oversoul of Lilith, the oversoul of Eve. We have, it's all here. All of creation, the oversoul of Torah is here. The beginning of the Aleph Bet, the end of the Aleph Bet. It's all here. In these 10 spherotic structures, in these 10 structures, who else do we have? We have Abraham, Isaac, Jacob,
David.
Aaron, David, Moses. Still, once again, it's all emanating out. It's not any question that these men did what they did, because their sole root was from the beginning. And everything in them, everything that contained from the beginning emanated out in them here. They're all a part of the players. That's why David's dad was called the Nakash. We can see that from our chart, because the Torah is one thing. We have the Nakash right here, and we have David right here. That's one thing. Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, right? He and his name are one. Okay? So let's talk about Solomon for a moment. What is Solomon? What was Solomon doing?
He built the temple.
He built the temple on the center point. All right? Solomon is Yesod of Moses.
Yesod.
Solomon's, that's why he had so many wives. He had 1,000. We're building Keter. Keter's value is 1,000. That's why he had 1,000 wives. He was in charge of connecting the upper worlds to the lower worlds. That's what he was doing successfully. And we won't get into Samson right now. But each one of these figures in Torah, each one of these persons in Torah is doing a work of his soul root that was done from the beginning, that is a part of Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh. They all knew exactly what they were doing. They were interfacing with the faces of the Torah. Okay? So,
Excuse me. Solomon was connecting what with what?
the upper worlds to the lower worlds, and vice versa.
And he had 1,000 wives to match what? 1,000
Keter.
to match Keter.
Yeah. Now, these are the 10 orbital sphirot, the nephesh, the first level of the soul that was emanated was the nephesh, containing Agulim and Yosher. This is the same point, not to be confused with two different things. This allows the sphirot to eventually have a personality and interact. All of this is still at the potential stage. This is the Tanta. Still at the potential stage. All the potential is there.
Now, when you write Tantia,
Mm-hmm.
the last A is larger than the first A?
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I don't know why they call it an A, because it's actually an O.
Oh, that's true. Maybe that's why it's...
But, you know, they all, in the Kabbalah, they always make acronyms for everything.
Mm-hmm.
This circle that I've drawn here is the spiritual DNA in the filters. It is black because it's darkness. Now, if we were to look at it, it would be so bright it would burn our eyeballs out. But if God's looking down, nothing's brighter than Him. So it's not what you're looking at, it's where you're looking from. Alright? It contains all the colors, all personalities, all everything. We have just created Keter, Ak, the crown. This is called Ra'ava, Ela'ah, or the divine will. We have just created the divine will. So, that is our board for today. And I tried to make it where y'all could see that this is the Ein Sof. It is the Or Ein Sof. It is Metatron. It is Leviathan. It is the twin messiahs. It is Adam Kadmon. It is all of this. It is within one boundary. Every point touches the next. Every point of light overlaps within itself. God is emanating Himself level to level to level to level, ring to ring to ring.
So it's a pattern.
Yes, and the pattern will go on and on and on.
Is it a pattern or a formula?
Yes, it's a formula pattern.
I like that.
If we look at this picture that I'm showing right here, it's a two-tailed Leviathan with the tails, the straight in the middle, coming around back into its mouth. We'll have feminine, masculine, Hasidim, Guvarot, Messiah ben Joseph, Messiah ben David, straight light, curved light. See, and the serpent, the Nakash. See, it's all there. It's all there. It's all one thing. It's a very good representation of how one picture illustrates four things. And it is Metatron. Because it's the
I think you got a pen drawing.
Yeah, but we don't.
it's a perfect torus.
It's
Perfect torus. Now, if Metatron has masculine and feminine, what's the feminine?
the feminine of Metatron
Yeah.
is Sandalphon.
Excellent, Russell.
It's what?
Sandal.
Sandalphon.
Who is? Who is? No?
Elijah.
Elijah the prophet.
The forerunner to Mashiach ben David.
Ben David?
Ben David. The forerunner to the Messiah is
Yeah, which he is the persona of Messiah ben Yosef, because he comes before, runs to David. So,
Yeah.
because he's feminine, and because he's a negative polarity, the bottom feminine left polarity, Elijah the prophet is a Messiah ben Yosef.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, he's a part of that. Now, what is the top of Metatron? The positive polarity,
The positive polarity would be Enoch.
Enoch. So we can see right here in our Torah, because Yud He Vav He is the entire Torah, and in Torah we read about Enoch and Elijah, because their oversouls were made right there. That's why they were both taken, because they were from a higher root.
Right.
So Nakash. Nakash has two sides. Lilith, Samael. Masculine, feminine. Of the negative polarity.
The masculine and feminine of the negative polarity. So each polarity has basically two polarities.
Each
Guva Road, yeah, you have Hasidim on the right side. I'm switching it around for y'all, because this is right
Yeah.
to y'all.
Okay.
Hasidim, Guva Road. On the Hasidim side, you always have the majority of it is male, a small portion of it is female. On the Guva Road side, the larger portion of it is female, a smaller portion of it is male. You have to have both polarities for it to exist.
Isn't that in physicality? Isn't that the same thing? Don't you have a feminine aspect? I mean,
Every male,
don't you have some
yeah.
estrogen production?
That's
some,
correct. That's correct.
Okay.
That is correct. So, what time do we have?
We have
6:50.
You have 20. You have actually 19 more minutes.
Okay, let's get in a little bit
Yes, Jason.
to
Two sons.
the if you go back and look at the days of creation, you know, the sun and moon were made on a certain day and all these things. The sun and moon had an argument with Hashem. The moon was originally the same size as the sun. And he came against Hashem and said, hey, I want my own, I'm my own light. I can have my own light. And so, literally, God said, no, you're going to be smaller than the sun and you're going to have nothing of your own. You're Malchut. Because Malchut has nothing of its own. Nothing of itself. That's why the sun is Malchut and all the feast days are run off of the moon. Let's touch a little bit on twin messiahs for a little. I'm going to read a little bit, just some high points here out of The Secret Doctrine of the Gaon of Vilna. This is a book that has been transformed into English and expounded on by Rabbi Baxt. The future redemption will occur between the twin messiahs, Messiah ben Joseph, Messiah ben David, and Shiloh, the center, as we will see. To tell Messiah ben Joseph, Messiah ben David, but it also has a center, which is Moses. The call of the turtle dove is heard throughout the land. This is the Kol HaTorah. The call of the turtle dove is the sound that precedes the actual appearance of the dove, turtle dove. Who's the turtle dove? Moses. The turtle dove is Moses, our teacher, who comes with Messiah ben David, the last Redeemer. Now, that ought to jog a question in your mind right there. The dove. Where do we see the dove?
We see the dove at Noah's Ark.
Okay. We see the dove when God recreated the world, and we're going to see the dove when He recreates the world. Now, What happened at the first dove? The dove found no place to lie. Nothing was worthy. But at the last, it will be worthy. All right? Moses is similar to the dove Noah sent out, which found no dry place to alight. So you were also sent to Egypt, because there was no place for the dove. Moses was sent to Egypt. As it is written, Moses looked all around and found no man. Exodus 2:12. It means that not one Israelite was found in those whose merit they could be worthy of redemption. For this reason you, Moses, refused to redeem them, and you pleaded, "Please God, send someone else to redeem them." Behold, Moses, as it is same now as it was then. Then Israel was like the body of a dove, and you, Moses and Aaron, were the two wings which they flew into freedom. Now at the last exile you are the body without wings. I will therefore send you the twin Messiahs as your wings. Messiah ben David and Messiah ben Joseph. Moses is the great 1,000 who fell and became the small Aleph, the number one. And he will rise again in the formula through Yesod 999 to flip to the 1,000. That's why we see in Vayikra the little Aleph in the story about Moses.
The little 1,000.
Yeah. This is why when you are teaching this type of stuff, only 1 in 1,000 get it. Because it is the formula from the beginning. So if you understand what's going on, if it is witnessing in your mind, I mean, if it is connecting with you on some level, you are 1 in 1,000. You are the little Aleph trying to ascend to the big Aleph and make the connection. Because the Torah is the oversoul of Moses. Because here's the oversoul of Moses right here at Metatron. And guess what? Here's the oversoul of Moses right here. He's the straight light between the two curved lights of the twin Messiah. Moses conquered the great serpent, Pharaoh. It's all Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh. Did Moses know at the burning bush exactly what he was doing? Absolutely. Absolutely. The scepter will not depart from Judah, nor the staff from between his feet until Shiloh comes. Shiloh is Moses. The scepter and the staff are the two Vavs, the two serpents. And Moses is the Aleph between them.
Is that a spelling of a word? That, I mean, what were you?
Is what a spelling of the word?
These letters that he's talking about, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the Vav, because Vav is spelled V-A-V.
Right.
So you have Vav, Aleph, Vav, if you really spelled it out.
Okay, I got you.
You see?
I got you, yeah.
So you have the scepter, Moses, and the staff. That's what the Vav represents. On a deeper level of, if you just took the word, if you took the Vav and you separated Vav out into V-A-V and actually spelled it, that's where he's going with that. King Solomon, as we discussed earlier, is literally the Yesod of Moses, connecting this world to the next. We will now look a little bit into Adam and the primordial serpent, which uncovers the unexpected tradition, teaching of the sacred serpent. The role of the sacred serpent formulates and predicts the supernatural role of all 7 sciences. See, the reason we have Joseph, and we can call him Messiah ben Joseph. He was sent to Egypt supernaturally with events to go retract something from the evil serpent. What had fallen out were the 7 sciences. All right, and so that's why Joseph told the Israelites, you take my bones out of here when you leave. The bones is a code word for the 7 sciences. So they literally took the 7 sciences out of Egypt and returned science back to religion in Israel, along with the literal bones of Joseph. Okay? It's no coincidence that the word Nakash, or serpent, and the word Mashiach, Messiah, have the identical numerical value of 358. One tradition states that Adam of the garden, was so godlike when he was created that upon beholding him and his awesome stature and the divine light radiating out of his form, that the ministering angels mistook him for being God himself and started singing the holy, holy, holy. And the Shekhinah and Hashem had to literally stop them. Because Adam of the garden didn't really, he was Atzilut. He was the top. All of the animals of the garden were subservient to him. They did all the work. He was the Metatron of the system. And the Nakash was his helper. But there's 2, a male Nakash and a female Nakash. One of the problems is that the Nakash was such an elevated creature that he took on the persona of Adam, which then his desire was for Eve because he was so much like Adam. And he wanted he wanted the knowledge. That was the whole tree of knowledge thing going on. Before the fall, Adam's height extended from the earth to the highest heavens. He could see from one end of space-time to the other. Adam's service was intended to mirror that of the Sphirot of Atzilut. Before the sin of the eating of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, all species of animals were gifted with intelligence and understandings. They also possessed many natural capabilities that Adam did not possess. These capabilities would therefore enable Adam to perform all necessary and relevant activities involving the rectification and the tikkun of all creation. Adam's fall, before Adam's fall, all animals were on the level of human beings today. So where did that put Adam? You know, the angels mistook him as God.
So did the animals fall?
Yes, because Adam fell, everything beneath him fell. This is the be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it. He could utilize all the fish in the sea, the birds in the sky, and every living thing that crawled upon the earth. He was giving permission to use every mineral, vegetable, and animal kingdom throughout the entire world.
You said he could use these because he didn't have these abilities himself?
If he thought it, they did it. He didn't have to do it.
Okay.
He was as God to them, so to speak. Even we'll go on here a little bit. Even if it was Adam Harishon, when even the ministering angels mistook him for God, yet we've seen Adam was not meant to perform the mission alone. All of the higher dimensional animals of the garden, each of them had their own unique power and ability, and he was to orchestrate and fashion this to do the tikkun of creation. If the Nakash had not been cursed, every person would have 2 serpents within his home today. He would send them off to the east and the west. They would bring him jewels, precious stones, and pearls, in addition to every beautiful thing in the world. No creature could harm them. Furthermore, they could be used instead of a mule, a donkey, or an ass. They could also produce manure for gardens and orchards. They were literally, as we are today, they would be to us. They would just be completely, the Nakash would be completely subservient. You wouldn't have to work. Your Nakash would go out and work. Your Nakash would go out and do the groceries, go fill the car with gas, and et cetera, et cetera. The Holy One said, I declare that the Nakash would be king over all the animals and the beast, that it would walk with an erect posture, and its food would be the same as man. It is obvious that the original Nakash being described by the sages is not like a snake or reptile that we have ever seen. Truly, translating Nakash here as snake or serpent is misleading. Moreover, it was not even a true member of the animal kingdom. Furthermore, the original Nakash was completely kosher, permissible to make use of just as any other animal world at the time. This is indicated in the part by the fact that Adam assigned the Nakash its very name, along with all the other creatures, which, before the fall, there was nothing unclean. And the Nakash has the same gematria as Messiah.
Right.
Samael, the persona of evil, literally means poison of God. It took its legion, descended and beheld all creatures which the Holy One had created. Not one was found sufficiently wise to commit evil, such as the Nakash. It was written, the Nakash was more subtle than all the wild beasts that God had made, Genesis 3. Its appearance was that like a camel, and Samael therefore arose and rode upon it. All that the Nakash did in the garden was, and all that he spoke, was under the control of Samael. The Nakash was pure din, pure Guvarot. That's why it was able to be manipulated, and that's why it went after Eve. And as we have seen in our discussions of Hug in the past, whenever you have Hasidim and Guvarot, you have balance. Whenever you have Guvarot and Guvarot, you have an implosion. And that's the fall at the garden.
Would you explain again what Samael is?
Samael is the left side Guvarot of angelic entities that has emanated out of the tohu of chaos and judgment. At its root, the holy Nakash was literally the Holy of Holies. This is the supernal, the At, the midbrain of Adam Kadmon, primordial man. So see how we went from Adam HaRishon back up to Adam Kadmon? The midbrain, the Da'at of Adam Kadmon was the Holy of Holies, was literally the center point of the holy serpent, the Nakash. And all will return. And I guess we will save a little, since we touched on Nakash this time, we will touch on the two-tailed Leviathan and the twin messiahs. This is the midbrain of what's in Keter Ari Kanpin of Ak, is what this is, which is what the Nakash attacked within itself and caused the collapse, which he was the operating system of Adam. Therefore, Adam collapsed because he couldn't do anything, as we learned previous, that Adam didn't charge. So next time we will touch a little bit more on the two Leviathans, which goes right in line with Da'at, with the Nakash, Metatron, and the twin messiahs, because it's Yud He Vav He, it's one thing, it's a formula, and that's how we have to study it. Okay? So, what's our time?
Well, we're good. Anytime you want to stop now.
Okay, that's probably a pretty good place without getting into more stuff. All right, so thank you guys for listening online. If you would, formulate your questions and write them down if you have any, and we will, next class, we will go over any question that you have. We went over a ton of information because we basically went over our entire last month of class with terminology, and then we had to go back into a point of the light of the Ein Sof and discuss a little bit about Messiah, Leviathan, Metatron that we discussed last week, and the Nakash. So those of you who are listening online that are lost, that's okay. You're supposed to be, and just stay with it. It'll all start making sense because it's all a circle. It all comes back. I tried to put a little bit today of where we see it in Scripture, where we see the similarities of it iterating out in the Scriptures that we read, and so we can take that and plug that back in to the original equation, and we will continue to do that. We will have our class again next Wednesday. Torah is amazing, sages are amazing, and I'm just glad we get to study it. So from everybody here in Waco, Texas, we're out.
Good night.